Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Azure Let's Talk podcast. This is the first episode of hopefully many if we continue to do these recordings. Hey, Alan.
Hey, you're right, Sam.
I am good, thank you. So just a quick sort of introduction. This is a podcast talking about Azure. Me and Alan are two technical folk who spend a lot of time playing around with Azure, don't we, Al? I think that's probably a good way to describe ourselves. And yeah, we're just gonna we spend a lot of time just chatting with each other, and we thought it would be good that we should probably record whilst we chat sometimes, because we cover many different topics, don't we? We sort of come at it from two different angles, and sometimes it's just nice to listen to other technical people talk in a non-salesy and wafty environment. I've already got it in there, right? It's only been we've been how long have we been recording for? We've been recording for a minute, and I already got it in there. So the idea is just to sort of talk with each other, talk about different things that are happening in the space, what we've been up to, what's upcoming, and just sort of talk through Azure, really. Anything else you want to add to that, Al?
I was going to say that we'll get onto it later, but we work in different areas, don't we? So
yeah,
it's a good wide view of everything. Well, most things anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason why we sort of went for Azure as a topic. I mean, you could pick any number of the many services and that Microsoft provide on Azure to just have you could just have a podcast about anything, couldn't you? Just
Azure Functions, yeah.
Azure Functions, yeah. Let's make the Azure Functions podcast. Yeah, that's a really good. Even though that's seemingly, I mean, it's a massive product, but it's still seemingly a small part of what Azure is all about, and you could just quite easily have a podcast just on that, couldn't you? So, and but what we wanted to do is we wanted to talk sort of more high level about what's happening in Azure, cross into both of our different domains, because like you said, we are a bit apples and oranges, or we don't do the same thing. So even though it won't be super focused into one area, it should be quite a nice high level discussion about different topics. So
we cross over a couple of times, don't we?
Oh, I mean, we do end up having calls during during certain times, helping each other, and I think that's because as we see, me and you spend more time, even though we are from two different backgrounds, and we'll go on to that in a minute. But we are from two different backgrounds, but we do in Azure spend time, working together, and we don't, because we don't work for the same organization, but we do still. We can help each other in different ways, even though we aren't in our specialist niches, are we? Do you want me just to give a brief sort of overview of what we're going to talk about tonight, just so everybody's sort of aware? We're going to just talk about. I'm going to do an intro. Al's going to ask me some questions about sort of my background, and I'm also going to ask some questions of Al, and get some background, like who we are. So this episode really is all about just introducing ourselves, talking about the format, what the plan is going to be going forward. And I don't think it's going to be the sort of the idea that we had is that we would have one sort of focus on each episode. So we'd have a topic that we both want to talk about, right? And then we talk about that topic, and we also talk about the news. And at the moment, in this episode, we're not going to have a topic. We're just going to talk about ourselves at the moment, and then have some news at the end, right? So yeah,
we'll see how this pans out, won't we? So
yeah, and I mean, just talking about audience, like who do you think it's best aimed at, Al?
I think it's about people that want to keep, with some of the news bits, we're going to be keeping up with, the news stuff that's coming out. And some of this stuff is, some of the exciting stuff that's out there, and how we utilize it in our day to day, how, roles in the world.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I think there is so much. I mean, like, just look at how many blogs there are, Azure and Microsoft, even like developer like focused blogs. And I think what's sometimes good is just to sort of step away from that a little bit and just talk about a few high level topics in audio format, so that you don't have to just continue to read through and digest that way. It's just especially for me, I love listening to podcasts. It's easy whilst you're traveling or you're working, is just to put on a podcast and just listen as you go. So right, without further ado, I suppose then, Al, do you want to fire off some questions at me and try and...
Yeah, let's find some information out about you.
Well, you are the identity guy, so...
Yeah. So let's see if we can get everything out of you. Yeah, so what's your story? What's your background? How did you get into IT, I guess, in this sort of state?
Okay, so as a teenager, pretty big nerd, into a lot of gaming. That's where I sort of learned computer systems, and from that I naturally moved into a development position. So I would class myself as a software developer. That's my background, and that's what I do. But obviously, as time's gone on, DevOps is a thing now, and especially in smaller teams, you have to. One of the great strengths is to also know where your code's going to go and have an appreciation for the systems that it's going to run on. So I worked up from a junior developer, and then I've worked into more senior positions. And I'm really focused. My background is .NET, but also I've got a load of mobile experience. Like when mobile sort of exploded, that's when a lot of the people I work for and a lot of my clients over the years have asked me to build mobile experiences. It's just kind of natural. I mean, web is still a big part of my day to day, but there is a huge amount of mobile there. But even with mobile, there are back end systems, right? Like content management systems and order process. All those back end functions that need to happen. They still happen somewhere on a some sort of server side system. So naturally I cross over those two disciplines on a daily basis.
Cool. So where are you working now then?
I work for myself. I've been in and out of jobs before. I'm quite I don't know, you can explain it probably better than I can. So I've worked for mainly, if I've been in a perm role, it's been at a small SMEs really, and startups. I've always enjoyed working in smaller teams where you have a lot more responsibility, for the end product. I've really enjoyed that. I've naturally steered away from larger organizations, really. I don't think there's anything wrong with them at all. It's just personally where I've gravitated to, really. And then, I've worked... when was the first time I went freelance? I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago now, the first time I left... I first left full-time employment, shall I say. And then I've had a few instances throughout the years where people have tempted me back, because there is something about having a team and more people around you than just being a lone wolf. But currently I own a company called Aptimize. At the moment it's just me and my wife. We primarily build mobile applications, but as I said, I'm sort of not known, but in my circle of people that I've done work for, I'm the web and mobile guy, really. And everything is Microsoft based. All of our infrastructure that we work with is all in Azure now. We're pretty much, we are Microsoft partners. We are, this is, it's kind of, and I think that is, I don't know. It's hard to say. One of the real big things that I've always liked about Microsoft technologies is that it's always been sort of big enough. And let's put that into better context because it doesn't really make any sense. Like Visual Studio. I don't think anybody. Okay, opinion time. I don't think anybody can argue that Visual Studio isn't one of the world leading class integrated development environments that are out there. Right, it's huge. And it's always been really, really good, you know. That's one of the reasons why I really enjoy working with Microsoft technologies, because it's somebody bigger is using the same thing, and they've thought about a lot more complicated problems before you get there. So, you know, like publishing profiles, you know, the connections, it's just so deeply integrated, you know, Azure and Visual Studio, one-click deployments, and, you know, and it's just, and now with Microsoft's acquisition of GitHub, that is starting to become even more, everything is even more integrated there. You know, it just shows the direction that they're going for development, basically. So that's sort of it's a real quick, you know, blitz through. But I have sort of done .NET since day zero. And I'm a dev. Like, I build stuff every day, which I really enjoy. You know, I think, you know that as well. It's all about that, you know, starting with nothing, building a system that adds value to people and is used day in, day out, you know. And I've worked for the range of different clients, from council, National Health Service, startups, everything in between. I really love working with different people on different projects. So I'm not your typical like contractor that I won't go into a business for 6. I have done longer term sort of, you know, air quotes contracting, but it's more, for me, it's more project based. So it's come in, build this system, and then work with us, you know, to improve it. Or it might just be me coming in and maintaining a system. So yeah, so we're pretty small. Obviously, it's just my wife and I. She does all of the operations and project management, like all the stuff that I don't like to do, because that's not my skill set. So it's it. But you have to have it. You know, it's part of the course. You can't just be amazing technically, in my opinion. You have to have the processes in place to build. You know, it's not just building like secure and resilient software. It's also, you know, how do you communicate with your client? How do you run your projects? I mean, I'm sure at some point we'll have an episode on working for yourself and all of those different things. So that's kind of me. And that's it. I'm a nerd. I'm a dev. Like, I love technology. So yeah.
You've been trying to make me a dev all the time, aren't you?
Well, I do. I mean, I have. So just let's just do a bit primer about me and you. So I've known Al for, I don't know how long we've known each other now. Probably 5 or 6 years. 5 years? Is it that long? I don't know. I can't really remember.
Yeah, probably is about 5 years.
5 or 6 years.
Probably 3 or 4 years, and we've been a bit more closer and
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
around this stuff and whatever.
Yeah. So me and Alan do like a good gaming session every now and again. Play games. Well, whenever we get chance to, because we have young families, which, in a good way, get in the way of that for sure. So we've known each other for ages. I think. We'll go through you in a second, but you come from a slightly different world than I do. But like you say, it's always, we never struggled to talk about, you know, the technicals or anything like that, have we, together? You know, even though we do come at it from two different genres,
2 different angles, yeah. And
for sure.
It's sometimes benefited either side as well, hasn't it, in those conversations? Yeah, I mean, it's just a second pair of eyes.
That's it, and that's it. You know, the gaps that, you know, yeah, like when I've got an issue with my Office 365, Al's the guy that I talk to. You know, like he's my IT support, that's for sure. Even though Al doesn't even do that every day, but he gets lumped with it anyway. So, but yeah, and I come at it from a purely, you know, building bespoke applications sort of viewpoint. So yeah. Anyway, let's stop talking about me. Let's talk about Alan Armstrong, the man. The legend. So, give us some background, Al. Where do you come from?
So, I guess I started getting into sort of IT, and it was more around tech support at that point. You know, when I looked at the home PC or the home computer, and whenever it was Windows 95, Jesus, and that's some time ago. And for some
Showing
reason was
your
able
age,
to sort
Alan.
of fix it.
Showing your
Yeah,
age.
I know. But fixing it, when I was younger,
Yeah.
it kind of moved from there. Being interested in how things work, how how it all puts together, building it, fixing it.
Yeah.
And then went to college, did national diploma in IT stuff, and then went into an apprenticeship with the local authority, Dorset County Council. So from there, build my way up within the organisation, as tech support, moving into second line, so going out and actually fixing stuff with customers, so having that relationship.
Yeah.
And then moved into the infrastructure and looking after Windows 10 and builds and things like that. And it kind of went from there. So with the local authority, kind of got to my got to where I could, as far as I could go in there, and then decided that I kind of feel like I want to help other people, and so went into consulting and moved to where I am today and looking at security, looking at Microsoft security products and helping secure people's identities and, their 365, their endpoints, deployments of Windows 10 in their environment. Normally, quite large organizations, but can be small as well.
So would you say you've done that sort of traditional move from on-prem into the cloud?
Yeah. So I am, always pushing people to move to the cloud where it makes sense. It doesn't always make sense.
Yeah.
Depends on the data and things like that. But yeah, moving into the cloud services, looking after 365. So yeah, and loving life at the moment in my current role. So
yeah. So what do you currently do?
So I work for a Microsoft Gold partner as a security consultant, and I've been there for 2 years now.
Wow,
that's gone quick.
Yeah, 2 years. It seems like last month, to be fair.
I know.
That's amazing.
So and they're called identity experts. We.
So what do they do, Alan? What do they? Yeah.
Oh, they're experts in identity, access management, and the security within Microsoft products.
Okay.
So I work in the security side and some of the identity stuff within Azure AD and things like that. So I've got to keep up with all that technology.
Yeah. All
changing
those products
weekly.
Yeah. It's like it's crazy, and I can't even. Yeah, that we need to have I think we need to have a whole podcast episode on how Microsoft needs to slow down, because it's just ridiculous, isn't it? Right? Like, just as a little primer for everybody else, we were sort of we built so we're gonna have a news segment on the show, and we built was it a Flow or a Logic app? I can't remember. I think it's a Flow, isn't it? Which
it's
syncs.
A Flow, yeah.
Or it's a few Flows, wasn't it? To sync different RSS feeds from blog posts, so that we could basically aggregate it. We'd have a huge list for us to go through, for us to read as well, but also to pick out, the most important topics, because there are. I don't know how many flows we had. I think we had I want to say it was either 12 or 15. It was a lot, wasn't it? There was.
Yeah, I think I had something like 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
The Microsoft stuff. Yeah, and then you had all the.
You don't realize until you create. Well, we created it, and to start off with, there wasn't very much, was there? But then you check it a week later, and the list is just in the planner board. It's just it's just ridiculous. They need to well, they don't need to slow down, because it's great. What they do is they've got huge amounts of people working on so many different features and new products. It's really good. It's great for our clients, because that innovation is done by somebody else, and we get to use that. But yeah, for us professionals, it's what is this new thing? Because if you miss something that's been in preview for a long time, that's the problem I have. It's I have an announcement something's just gone GA, and it's probably been in preview for 6 months, and I'm I didn't even hear about that. So yeah, it's just keeping up with the news and just trying to work out what is what's there. It's just yeah. So why do you think? Just going back to it. Sorry, a bit of digression there. Why do you think Microsoft now? Why aren't you a specialist in some sort of other technology stack?
I think it's probably because work, when I was working at the local authority and probably other businesses, it's all been Microsoft anyway.
Yeah.
And that sort of move, licensing, Outlook in Office that was on prem, and then 3 or 4 years ago now, it's moving. The cloud appeared.
Yeah.
It just kind of, majority of customers tend to morph into 365.
Yeah.
So kind of, and it was part of my role at the local authority to help, bring it on some of it anyway. I was definitely involved.
Yeah.
So it just kind of built there, and because of my ability to soak up all that knowledge there and then, moving to identity experts allowed me to have that baseline to then help others.
Correct. Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean,
I think that's why. I think it's just where it is.
Do you think that when you did work for the local authority, you gained, because there weren't maybe as many people there, doing that cloud migration, and a lot of it was, doing it for the first time? Like there wasn't, there were obviously other case studies, but it's quite insular when you work at like an organization like that, right? You've got the way that it's done before, and a lot of those technologies were being done in that organization for the first time, and there isn't maybe necessarily, for every single thing you do, there's enough budget there to be able to say, let's bring in a team of consultants to tell us how to do this. A lot of it is like, go out and learn it yourself, and then we know we need this type of technology for X, Y, and Z, but go and learn it yourself and go and digest that information.
Yeah, and that world was new as well, so there wasn't probably a lot of experts out there at the time.
Yeah.
There were experts. I'm not saying there wasn't, but obviously it was far and few because it was a building world. So
yeah, and it was also very new for everybody. So I suppose that the maturity of the partner structure there in Microsoft, it was there. Don't get me wrong. There was definitely people that knew what they were doing, but for the sort of scale of deployments you were doing, I mean that's I think both of us, we didn't go into, like, I didn't go to university, or any of that, like the more traditional routes. Like I'd say, well, no, not traditional. It depends where you're from and your background and all of those different things. But I think both of us are we've learned on the job, as we've been doing it. We've gone through it. We've seen it in action, and that's what sort of guided how we do things. Right. Okay. So that's a bit of a primer about us. So basically, Al is your identity guy. Says it on the name. I mean, I don't need to, I don't
not just identity.
I just want to say one thing. If anybody from Identity Experts is listening to this, I wasn't making a jab at Identity Experts. I just love the fact that it's just named so well. It's just like, this is what we do, and we are very specialist in what it's like total Ron Seal, isn't it? But it's not even corny, is it? Like, that's the best part about it. It's just, you guys are just amazing at what you do. So yeah. That's like amazing. Right. Should we have a bit of a chin wag about some news? Because we have been recording for 23 minutes. Alan, this is your 23-minute warning. We didn't have a 23-minute warning. I'm just saying, like, podcasty sort of thing. So, right, let's dive into some topics. Right, let me just bring up. So, spot instances, Al. Do you know what a spot instance is?
Not off the top of my head, no. I've not kept up with that bit.
Okay.
I did see it today, though, admittedly.
Oh, did you?
But,
today?
Yeah, I was building VMs today, yeah.
Were you? Oh, what's this button? I'm going to... Right, so in Azure, we've had low-priority VMs for a long time now. Good for batch processing. Very, very, very cheap. Obviously, you bring them up and destroy them. They're usually, you build an image and just bring it up to do a task, and then you shut it down. You pay, per second or whatever the billing is, but the idea is that it's for sort of overnight batch workloads and things like that. So we've now got spot pricing, which I don't know, there's another service provider out there that has a very similar name, and it's again a very similar thing to low priority virtual machines, but the cost per hour is just variable, dependent on the demand that's out there. So the the low priority VMs are fixed discount, and they are destroyed when the capacity goes. It's like, we've run out of space for low priority, they're gone. But now with spot virtual machines, I believe you could basically do a bidding system where you say, this is the max I'm willing to pay for this. So in a traditional thing, you might use spot instances for like an application that's maybe resilient to outages. So you might run like a scale fleet of, let's say you had a spiky workload where you would say, okay, I definitely need 10 VMs that all do the same thing, and I need those. But what I'll do is I'll have 5 running permanently. I'll pay full price for 5, and the other 5 I'll run as spot instances. And if they get destroyed, I could run on 5. Like my app wouldn't fall over. I might get a bit of, degradation in my service. Like response times might increase, but it wouldn't be detrimental to the experience. And you could save effectively a huge amount of money, because these spot instances and low priority VMs are so cheap. Like compared to actual, it's just absolutely insane, right? And the thing is as well is we'll include like the link to the Azure blog post about it. And the big thing about this is spot instances have been in preview, and now they are GA. So that is sort of the news to talk about. So it's definitely worth people looking at if they're looking for a flexible, lower cost, virtual machine solution. So if you've got a development and test environment, you might want to run it on a spot instance, because if it gets destroyed, it could be that it's not if it gets evicted, sorry, not destroyed, I shouldn't really call that, I should use their actual terminology. If it gets evicted, then what's the downside? Somebody has to fire up a one that's paid for, so I think that's
you wouldn't want to put a domain controller on it.
That's not my area of expertise, but that sounds like a bad. That sounds like a bad. That sounds like a bad thing if people can't authenticate. I mean, it'd be pretty terrible. But yeah, so I don't think there's loads of like functionality in there. I'm not going to go through that. That's just it's just a big high level primer that spot instances are GA now, everyone. Right, Al, from the world of identity and security, give me something.
So we'll stick with sort of the Azure world, and we'll talk about Sentinel. So, have you heard of Sentinel?
Isn't that something to do with the Matrix? Anyway, no, yeah, I have. I'm just. This is basically what mine and Alan's conversations are. Is Al talking seriously to me and me going, "Sorry, what? I've never heard of that." I have heard of it. I've never used it myself. It's not really my area. But if you just want to give a real quick overview of what it does.
So it's a SIEM in the cloud, and SIEM being a security information and events management system. So there's other products out there that are well known that run as SIEMs, and they run on premise and they run in the cloud. But Microsoft have brought Sentinel, and it was announced in quite some time now. It's probably Ignite time where it probably came out properly, and it's there now. And at the moment and for the foreseeable future, the Office 365 logs, majority of them are free to ingest into there, because you pay a per gig ingestion cost, which isn't large amounts, but things like when you push up a firewall logs up there can be quite expensive. Be like 40 gig a day kind of thing, and times £2 or £3, it's insane. It seems a lot, but probably in the world of SIEMs, it's probably reasonable pricing.
Okay, right.
So it's good to it'll be practically, it's not free, but it's practically free to run, and you can see all your events from all your security products in Office 365 and all your activity and stuff.
So is Sentinel?
So it's a good place to.
So you only pay for ingestion consumption with Sentinel. Is there like do you have to be a certain, on a certain AD premium or whatever or is it just a standard product? How does it work?
It's only the connectors, so the data coming in. Some of those products, some of the connectors require you to have those services.
Okay.
Like if you had Microsoft Cloud Application Security, and you wanted the logs from that to come in to it, you have to have licensing for cloud security.
Yeah. Okay.
But ingest data from other products, Checkpoint, Cisco firewalls, F5s, and you can ingest data from any product that's on premise and things like that. So the idea is to bring all your data into one location, and Sentinel has some artificial intelligence AI stuff in there to work out when there's bad things happening, or you can build your own with the KQL language.
Okay.
So
right.
Quite
so
interesting.
so when it monitors those logs, you can either use the sort of inbuilt analysis engine that it's got, which is AI powered, and all those things, or if you're looking for specific events that are happening, you can build your own sort of intelligence engine in effect. If you because you might have some sort of bespoke log going in there that isn't part of a large.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. It might be. Yeah. Okay.
And it's an evolving product still. It's quite new. There's new connectors being built, and some of the automation bits. So if there's an incident and you want something to happen, it uses playbooks, which is in effect logic apps.
Okay.
So you can start using that to then say, well, this incident's happened. I'm going to go and send an email to the SecOps team, or I'm going to put a ticket in to the ticketing system kind of thing. So
we've got another thing that's like a flow, like a logic app, but now it's actually something else, right?
No, it's using
a playbook, not the same thing, or is it?
It's called a playbook within Sentinel, but it is in the back end a logic app.
Okay, right. So, okay, got it. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, that's amazing, isn't it? I mean, especially if it's only like consumption based in terms of like the amount of data going into it. That seems really reasonable for me. Like, seems insane.
Yeah, and just one quick thing to say is that when you have Sentinel, you can for free retain the data for 90 days as well.
What, the data that's so do you pay a storage fee when it's inside of there or not?
You don't. Because it's the back end of it is log analytics, so you pay for ingestion and the storage is retention. So how many days you keep it?
Yeah.
With log analytics, 30 days is for free, and anything above you pay for. But when you include Sentinel, you get it for 90 days, and then you can pay it more. You can pay additional cost to keep it.
Wow, that's insane. Especially if you're. But I suppose that's probably covered by your ingestion cost anyway, right? They've probably factored that in.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah,
that free. You don't have to pay anything on top of what you're paying. Yeah,
they get you somewhere. I'm sure they just wrap it up into one easy number, and you're like, what per gigabyte? Like what? Okay, yeah, but that's it though. But I think that just goes to show that that's another level that you can bolt onto things you're already generating, like those logs. Every system produces logs, and just having something else watching over it. I think that's a lot of what you do is having somebody else there that's like not secret but like invisibly watching, looking over your shoulder, looking at what you're doing and giving you recommendations on how to be more secure without having to have a technical person sitting there checking things, right? It's
to give SecOps teams time to protect, get all the it's not boring stuff, but the trolling through logs and everything.
Oh yeah, because when do people have time to do that? Nobody has time to do that, do they? So it probably just doesn't get done. And this is this will get done, and it will get done all the time. Right, Azure Blob Storage, Alan. I hear you rejoice with absolute excitement. And so, right, here we go. GeoZone redundant storage is now globally available. So this is making sure that so blob storage, if people don't know, is effectively a service where you can add files to a storage container, a storage account, and Microsoft will store that for you. And there are different levels of data protection. So I cannot remember what the standard SLA is. Even for locally redundant storage, I think is like 3 copies across data centers in a region, or boxes in a data center. I can never remember, but the SLA is like 9 dots. Like it's ridiculous. Like it's insane. The durability is insane, and this takes it this takes it to a different level because we're talking about redundant storage over zones. So it's generally in a paired zone. So if you were talking about the UK, you'd be UK South and UK West. So your data is not only redundantly stored inside of that zone in the data centers in that zone, it's also replicated to other zones. And it just, I mean, I'm not sure. It's insane. Like it's absolutely like nuts what they've done, and it's got versioning. It's got everything you would ever need, and it's got insane amounts of durability. So if you have a zone, a lot of the times when I'm building systems inside of Azure, and they talk a lot about zone disaster recovery. So what happens if one zone goes down, right? That's the, because it's not so, in my opinion, it's not so much nodes going down inside of a data center, right? Because they have this, what do they call it in data center land? It's like, is it SWAT or they kill it? I can't remember what it's called. Somebody said it the other day. I was listening to a podcast. It's basically like if anything goes wrong in a server nowadays in a data center, people just like kill it instantly. I can't remember what they call it. Anyway, it's called like Splat or something like Spot. Somebody, I don't know. I'm really kicking myself. I can't remember that. Basically, shoot it if it moves or something like that. It's whatever the thing is. Basically, like if a hard drive murmurs that it's got a problem, the whole box just gets deleted. Like it just gets everything gets moved off of it before. Like those node level incidents, the tracking and telemetry of those systems is just so good nowadays. It's just like everything's virtualized now, isn't it? And it's all just moved off seamlessly and jumping between nodes and things. But when they talk about a zone wide outage, if you imagine, like, I don't know, let's have that a huge part of the UK floods or a volcano erupts somewhere. Around the Microsoft data set, like you're going to want to migrate, point your applications, your traffic to your applications to a different availability zone, and then work from there. So we have these systems for VMs, for databases, read replicas, point in time restore, and that we've now got this for blob storage, even though blob storage is already like insanely durable.
Yeah.
Like you put something in blob storage and it's like there. I don't really know the difference in pricing. I haven't got that on what I've got here, but it's just another level of redundancy on top for everybody. So yeah, that's now not in just preview. That's in general availability, which is amazing.
It does sound good.
I mean, who doesn't want more durability? I mean, I think the thing as well is because it's so with all of these like features, it's just turn it on. Like it's not, you don't have to configure your app. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a, and that's the thing. I'm just reading through this as well. It's so this versioning and point in time restore is brand new. Like it's gone into preview as well. So that's where I'm getting that from. So. This is the thing. They're just, you turn it on, you pick the level of redundancy you want, and the storage costs are very reasonable. I mean, with blob storage, you pay an access fee, so you pay to store it, you pay to retrieve it, so there's a billing system, there. But as a way to store like data, it's blobs, it's insane. Like it's not, you put it there. And you can use, because a lot of our apps that we build now are, a lot of us are moving away from like traditional sort of monolithic backends and stuff like that, where you would send the file to the server, then that would, that's not really a thing that we do that still happens, but it's moving away from that. It's moving into this, this PaaS environment where you don't have local storage and you need to put your blob somewhere. So where do you put it? You put it in blob storage because there's a connector for every single different language out there to put stuff into blob storage, right? You know that from the work you've done in Logic and Flow. It's like, I want to store something in blob, like create a connector. Okay, it goes into there. So so it's great that we get more options for availability. And I'm really I need to go and have a play with this versioning and point in time restore because me and Al are working on. Al helps me. Well, we're building something where I basically go and scrape some data and store it, and I have to keep I've made like copies to keep point in time versions, haven't I? So I might not even need to do that if I can now do versioning inside of blob storage. It's ridiculous, you know. So and there's also, you know, for each of those blobs, there's role-based access control, archive, you know, locking, so you can't accidentally delete them, and all of those various different, you know, those features that you would want in those in that sort of system. So yeah, amazing. I love blob storage. Blob storage is like, yeah, it's just so handy. It's just like, okay, I can stick stuff in blob storage, and I know I can be really confident that I don't have to worry about backing that up and making sure it's, you know, okay, yes, it needs to be backed up, you know, but
like you said, it's easy to spin up as well. It's not difficult to get it to
how
get
long does
an
it take to
instance
create a
there
storage
ready.
account? Like, it doesn't even, you know, no offense, Microsoft, but Azure can sometimes be a bit slow to bring things up. Redis, cough, cough. But like Azure storage accounts, it's like bang, done. Like it's live, and it's insane. It's absolutely, like, I don't know how they do it, but assume, yeah, whatever. But it's just, yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. What you got for me next, Al? What's next on your identity?
So I don't know if you'll know about this, but have you ever used in Azure AD? Have you ever used dynamic groups?
Yeah. So you do like a filter of people, basically. So you say like, I think I've got one in mind for like everybody that's on Windows 10 or something like that. Is that a dynamic group that we made?
Yeah, that's
for mine?
right.
Yeah. We've used that before.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, dynamic groups is basically with the attributes from a user, you know, the department, the operating system of a device. You can basically auto-populate a group dynamically. So it's really good for, like, you know, saying all the HR staff or all of the Windows 10 devices that we just sort of said. The problem was that when you did the query, you never knew if it was actually going to work.
Okay.
So when you submitted it and saved it, it would, you know, sit there and then, you know, sometimes instantly start populating the fields, you know, populating users. Sometimes it take 20 minutes. And, you know, after 20 minutes, you'd be like looking at it and going, oh, it's not worked. Okay, let's go and change it. Now wait another 20 minutes.
Right.
So Microsoft recently announced public preview of validation of that dynamic group query. So as you build it, you can then go and check there and then to see if it would, you know, select this user to prove that it works. Because then you can just get on with it.
Because
I
suppose you've got
saves time.
I suppose you've got a known user that should be part of that group, so you can say, run this and make sure that Alan is in this group. Is that basically what it's doing? And
the other way around, you know, you got users that you won't know that shouldn't be in it as well, or devices that shouldn't be in it.
Okay.
So it's really good to.
So that time that it takes for that, the time it takes for that group to become active, is that now reduced to 0 now? Is that also part of it?
It still takes, I think it can take up to 20 minutes for the, you know, back end of Azure AD to then go through everything and run its membership cycle. But you can instantly check it there and then to see if it's there. And I think as well, if someone's not gone into that group, you can do a validation on them and it will tell you why they don't meet this.
Right, okay.
So you can
see the reasons. So you can see each of the conditions that they failed to meet to go into that group.
Yeah.
Great, amazing. That seems like, because that would seem like, as a developer and a debugger, like spending time. Like if you imagine if you write a query and it takes 20 minutes to update, you're literally sitting there potentially just waiting, saying it either doesn't work. And how do you, you know, excuse my ignorance, like when you're making changes to those groups in production, right? Because Azure AD is always in production, I assume. There's no like, is there a staging version of it? Like you might have a test. I don't know how you guys do that, but like, so if you imagine you've got this live system where you're editing these groups and you don't know what's causing somebody not to be in there, and there's potentially like a manager or something standing here going, why isn't this person in this group? And you're like, I'm just waiting for it to update. And you don't know if it's, you know, I can imagine that's
fixed
quite...
it or not,
Yeah, because you've got to wait. It's like, I made a change, come back in 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, it hasn't made a difference because you haven't done it correctly. That's like, you know, that's what will happen to me, I'm sure.
I've been there, you know, because, you know, when Android Enterprise is going slightly slightly out, but Android Enterprise came in
Yeah.
from into Intune, and then you wanted to target that. Some of the documentation didn't necessarily say what you had to search for or what it looked like. So you keep trying it till you get the devices in there, kind of thing. So it's
because I can imagine if it took me, if I was diagnosing like an issue with a piece of software, obviously I can rapidly change some code, rerun it, run a test or an integration test or an end-to-end test, or just manually click through and get it and to replicate an issue. Having to wait 20 minutes is like, it's insane, and I assume some of these groups can be quite complicated, like not just simple. Is this person on a Windows 10 device,
we've had some where it's like, if it's from this domain, and then excluding these people, or if they've got this attribute and things like that, and you start looking at it and you're going, well, it doesn't work. Oh, why? And then you start or you've got to do weird. The filter's got to be starts getting quite you say complicated.
And then you've just got more layers of abstraction to deal with and to diagnose, right? Because you have no idea if there's 6 different elements inside that query. You're like, what's even causing? I could imagine that's pretty challenging, but it's great. And I think that's one of the things, especially it's quite apt at the moment with this the surge of people onto Teams is like a really good another one of this, where they're always looking at making that experience like better in all aspects, right? We see that all the time, is that it's not almost it seems like to me it's like anything that makes logical sense just hasn't been done because it's just on the roadmap and they just haven't got enough. They've got other they've just prioritized their roadmap. It's going to happen. It's private channels. It's going to happen. It's just when will it drop finally? And I think that's one of the really one of the massive benefits for me, is because today, something might not make sense for me to use, but tomorrow, if I didn't think the redundancy already of Azure Blob Storage was good enough, and then they go, right, here's GeoZone redundant storage, I've actually got it now, even though it's right on my screen. I can never get the acronym. It always thingies me. That's why I've got to keep reading it. But do you see what I mean? It's always, I've never really had a requirement to have versioning on my Blob Storage, but it's in preview now, and it's that's free. I'm free. I'm paying for it, but it's free. If I built my own storage system or my own way, my own logic to group, because you could quite easily look into AD and manually create these groups, couldn't you? I'm assuming you could automate that. There must be tools to do that sort of thing. But
you'll be able to use PowerShell or something like that.
Correct. Yeah. So instead of rolling your own, Microsoft's like, here's what you've got. Okay, the developer, not the developer, the IT, the technical experience might be a bit lacking, so we're gonna make that better for you. That's a positive thing. Right, last topic, because we're already at 48 minutes. Me and Al said we'll be done in half an hour, but anyway, we tried our best. I'm really sorry, everyone. Microsoft Build, and this isn't really just Microsoft Build, is it? Because obviously with the current COVID-19 situation, it's obviously hitting every part of our lives, right? I don't think there's anybody out there that hasn't been affected in some way. It's truly, it's insane, isn't it? Everybody knows about it. We don't need to talk about it all the time. But obviously Microsoft have made the decision to put Build virtual only. So basically from I think it's the 19th, it's next week, isn't it? It's the 19th of May, I think it is. They're doing 48 hours worth of live streams. I saw a Scott Hanselman tweet saying that it doesn't matter what time zone you're in, we'll basically go in for 48 hours or something like that. It's absolutely mental. Did you see that they did a little, have you seen the intro video for it?
No, not yet.
It shows the speakers, right? And I don't think Scott Hanselman made it, but he's obviously doing, I think him and his team are doing a lot of work for Build, because it's more developer focused, so they're doing the streams and everything like that. But in the intro video, it's like speakers. His was first, and then Satcher was like fourth or something like that. And it was like, we really know who runs Microsoft around here. Do you know what I mean? Like Twitter just went absolutely mental with it. It was really cool. But yeah, no. So starts on the 19th of May and finishes on. Well, it's a bit weird for us because it's all PDT. So over here it starts. It goes throughout the whole night basically. So both it finishes at 6:30 a.m. on the 21st for us. So so I'm not the thing is the Power Platform for Developers one is at 5:15 on 5:15 in the morning for us on the 21st. Wow. But apparently they're all going to be recorded anyway. And I mean, Microsoft are usually pretty good anyway with recording all the sessions and everything. You know, you've been to Inspire obviously, so you're
Ignite.
Oh, Ignite. Yeah, sorry, Ignite. I apologize. Yeah. It's just yeah, sorry, my apologies. I didn't mean to belittle you there, so sorry about that. But yeah, Microsoft are usually pretty good with recording all the sessions anyway, but you obviously don't get that thing. I mean, I really want. I've never been to one of the big Microsoft conferences before, and I did seriously think about going to Build this year. I mean, it is a big investment for anybody, you know, even if your work are paying for it. It's for us, it's a good week out of work, isn't it? And it's hotels, flights, and even though you are there and there's an element of, you know, commercial engagement there, it is more of a what's the best way to describe it? It is more just about learning and getting, you know, into the community and actually meeting
and socializing with the Microsoft, you know, product groups and things like that. 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that was a big part of Ignite.
Yeah, definitely. And stealing cushions, if anybody from Microsoft is listening. Anyway, I've never stolen a cushion in my life because I've never been to an event. But Al can tell you about cushion stealing. And I think, so I saw, if you'd registered for the real build, you got they sent out their goodie bags. They had I think their little lunch boxes. They look really cool, and they've got like socks and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. But that's it, isn't it? You know, and I think Ignite has gone virtual as well, hasn't it?
Yep, this year it has. Yeah. We don't know yet about future Ignites and things like that. Same with any of them, isn't it? Really.
Well, that's it. It's all up in the air, isn't it? I think one for me, I know it's not like Microsoft and Azure, is WWDC, like Apple's event. Like that's very big in like my sort of my world. That's virtual now as well. And the thing with WWDC is it's so much smaller. Like it's not to the scale. Like it is still massive, but to get a ticket is pretty hard. Like you've got to have like a big app in the App Store, and you know, and it's like a big thing. And again, it's a very expensive event. You know, you go to fly to America, the hotels are insane. Like it's just very expensive to do. So so I, you know, for us, I think it's good because we'll get the best. You know, like everybody's going to be attending remotely, aren't they? Right. So everybody's going to be getting the same sort of treatment.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even with these events, if you know they do become face to face eventually, you know, the experience is really good to be there, but you still get a hell of a lot of information from the streams and everything. It's all there. Yeah. So you don't. It's too much out.
No, you don't. No, and I think that's what the great part of any Microsoft event is. They are the real value for us technical people anyway are in those, you know, those sessions, aren't they? They are the, you know, and especially the smaller sessions. You know, if I've ever, like I went to Future Decoded this year, and those those sessions, like the QAs were just, and they weren't like Future Decoded it's massive. It's still massive. It's like it was at the Excel, like it was a big old thing. I mean, I'm guessing it's nowhere near like a build or an Ignite, I'm assuming, but still the amount of QA that went back and forwards, because they bring, you know, even though Future Decoded is more about the technology, not necessarily the deep dive into how it works. Like it's not it's like how we're using AI to, you know, to do X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is, and how we're using Power Automation to fix this need. But still, the insight that you gain from the people there, you know, like, and like Future Decoded is a free event, isn't it? It's like it's not even it's not even a big old paid thing, you know what I mean? It's over 2 days, and it's got, you know, it's really good. Like I'm a big fan of Microsoft events. They really know how to put on a, like, they've been doing it for years, haven't they? They know how to put on an event. So yeah. So I think people, I mean, build is more developer focused, but obviously, as we know, more and more, just with IT really, more and more development projects are now moving into the cloud, right? You know, the idea of a company, you know, hosting stuff on-prem is still there, but it's not. It's being augmented with, you know, in the cloud. So it's definitely worth, you know, just looking through the agenda now. I mean, loads of it is like Azure for every developer, the future of tech, Power Platform for developers. Like, it's all, there's loads of Azure bits like in there. Do you know what I mean? It's not just code. So actually, to be honest with you, I'm just looking through. I'm just trying to work out if there's any, like, I don't see like a, you know, .NET 5, like, you know, there's none of those sorts of sessions. It's just, you know, it's high level. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen the content of each of these. So yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. I mean, it is 56 minutes now, so we should probably let people, like, we were supposed, sorry everybody, this is our first one, obviously. So, you know, any feedback is definitely welcomed, isn't it? You know, we just hope that us just sitting down, having a chat about Azure, you know, might give some value to everybody that's listening. And we want to continue to do it, because I think we do this anyway, so it's not really, except for the editing, which I haven't done yet, so we've got to do that. So just an FYI for everybody, we're recording if you're listening via audio, we're recording our webcams. We're going to upload it to our YouTube channel. We haven't got that YouTube channel yet, so I can't tell you what the URL is. But there'll be links to the YouTube channel if you want to watch, like, our faces. You probably don't. And that's pretty much it. When are we going to do our next one, Al? Like, I don't know. I have no idea. In a couple of weeks?
Do you want to do it a couple of weeks, yeah? Or
something like that. Once there's enough to talk about, really, isn't it? You know, I think that's the thing, because we don't really want to talk about boring concepts. The only thing is that we need to decide on each of our episodes what we're actually going to talk about. You know, like our main topic. You know, at the moment, you know, today it was just our, you know, introductions to us, just talking about us. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but going forward, we're going to try and pick a juicy topic to talk about. Maybe it's in Alan's sort of area, maybe it's in mine, or it's talking about, you know, something completely different not outside of Azure, but still inside of, like, IT and technology, but outside of Azure specifically. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to say, Al? Any shout outs you want to do to anybody listening? Do you reckon there's anybody listening? I don't know. I don't know. I don't.
We'll have to see, won't we?
Well, we'll have to see. Yeah. So
it's definitely gone quicker, hasn't it?
Oh, that's it. We're already at 58 minutes. It's absolutely insane, isn't it? So anyway, okay, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks everybody for listening. If you've got to the end, that's great. Thank you ever so much. I've got nothing to sell you. I don't want to sell you anything. But yeah, if you could subscribe to us, if you enjoyed us rambling for nearly an hour, that would be great. And then we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, catch you later.
Cheers. Bye.